We had 438 RPAC-backed candidates in 2024. We had a 97% win rate. It was a unanimous ruling of the Supreme Court. NAR was victorious in its support of a Texas man who may now seek compensation after a state highway project caused his land to repeatedly flood. So you can click this Create Script button. And when you do that, you can select what kind of tone you want for a script. A lot of agents didn't know that you could do a reconsideration of value.
Episode 57 of Market Moves with Mark and Jeff, two uninteresting guys talking about interesting times that occasionally bring on interesting guests. Jeff, we missed last week. First time we've done that in a while. How you doing?
Well, I didn't know what to make of missing a week. We've been pretty good, Mark, at not having lapses. So I've been looking forward to getting back together, not just with you, but also with an interesting guest, which it drives the interest levels. So hanging in there so far. Yeah, happy to be here.
Well, let's jump right in. I would love to bring in Keisha Wilkinson. Keisha, we have known each other for quite a while, kind of towards, I think, the tail end of your 12 years at Fannie Mae, where you were a marketing specialist. But back in June of 24, my goodness, almost a year and a half now, you have been the senior policy representative focusing on valuation for the National Association of REALTORs. And I know that you loved your work at Fannie Mae, and I am really curious at the opportunity you saw in moving over to NAR and the work that you're doing now. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I counter what you said. You guys are interesting. You're interesting guys. Yeah, it is. It's amazing. It's pretty cool. I jumped into National Association of REALTORs at a time of change, and it's fascinating to see what's happening. We've been working from the inside out, and I think you're going to start to see some changes in the coming months and hopefully years too, to be more member focused and to really put. I mean, the members have always been first, but to really put the members' needs and concerns up front first and foremost. So I'm happy to be here today to talk about some of our valued members, which are appraisers.
I think a lot of people don't realize how tightly connected appraisers and real estate agents are. Keisha, most appraisers join a local MLS or association to have access to the MLS data. And by definition, they join the realtor organization. And there's just a lot of resources, information, benefits, and mutually, I think, shared interest in a robust and an effective real estate, economy that, sometimes the lived experience is, I've got an agent. If I'm an appraiser, I've got an agent that wants to see or hear something. And so there's a little bit of, kind of defenses that, maybe naturally go up. And conversely, the agents, worry that the appraiser is going to do something that may prevent a deal from going through. And so there can be some kind of resistance, but in my experience, understanding what agents are doing and seeing if I'm an appraiser and vice versa, it's just really beneficial, for everybody involved in real estate transactions. And so I've been really excited to have this conversation with you. I do have to note that with all of Mark's introductions and our tagline of being uninteresting, you're the only one that's actually opposed that description. We haven't had anybody else counter that, so you're probably just a really good guest, but we're not batting very high as far as people finding a contrary opinion to that.
Oh, they're just not saying it out loud. They're thinking it. But it's interesting that you say that. When I picking up on something you just said, when I was appraising back in the day, I had a membership. I had access to my local MLS, and through that, I was a member of the National Association of REALTORs. But I would have never considered myself as a realtor. I thought realtor equates agent, you know. It's like Kleenex, right? Like you think of the word Kleenex and you think tissues. Well, turns out Kleenex actually makes other products as well. National Association of Realtors includes agents, includes brokers, but also includes appraisers. And so when we think about that, you know, appraisers are often paying this money for MLS access, but like you said, there's so much more that they can gain, and the organization itself. It's the biggest piece, and I want to talk about this, but the biggest piece to me, especially where I work right now, is the advocacy, the lobbying power of the organization, and the way the organization lobbies is based on member needs, is based on input from the members. So all of the members have the opportunity to speak up and voice their needs, voice their concerns, voice their perspectives, and that's needed. It's very important for the lobbyists to know what to work on, and it's there. We have a lot of appraisers that do that. We have appraisers that are very active. We have folks that are presidents of their state organization, their state association of realtors. But then we have some areas where the appraisers just think like I used to think, that, oh, that isn't me. That isn't what I am a part of. But they are. So it is very helpful to have folks come in and really get involved and share what's going on, their perspectives, and all of that to shape the organization and where it goes.
You know, it's really interesting that you say that, Keisha, because I've seen both sides of that equation as well. You know, my dad has never had a sales license, but he's been the president of our local association, MLS association board. He's been involved with the state association as well as an appraiser, and not like a practicing, you know, sales agent or whatever. And I think people just don't fully understand that there's a lot of lobbying and power. One of his takeaways was, you know, appraisers are fragmented. You've got appraiser associations, which appraisers should be involved with, but really there's a lot more power in aligning with NAR and their ability to lobby effectively than some of the appraiser associations. And that's not to say that, you know, you should only do one and not the other, but there's a lot of opportunity. I'd love your perspective on what, you know, like kind of how NAR is organized and how they work in terms of lobbying, both at the national, but also at even the more local levels as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a members up organization, right? But once you get to the top, to that advocacy area, we do a lot of different things. So, and I wrote down some notes here, so I'm going to refer to this, but I mean, for the past, 25 plus years, NAR is the most, if not every year, but almost every year, it is the most powerful lobbying organization in real estate. One of the strongest lobbying organizations overall in the United States. In 2024, just looking at the numbers, we wrote letters to the White House and federal agencies over 20 times. That's to go on the record, weighing in on proposed things and what's happening. But besides what we're doing, you know, with these publicly published letters, NAR met with folks at the White House and in other places more than 4 dozen times. And I see that. I'm here in DC now, and I get to see it. It's fascinating. You know, folks in my building, in my office, are constantly going over to the Hill, going over to the White House, and having meetings with folks to share what the realtors' views are, and to offer assistance in understanding what's happening, you know, out there in the market. It's constant. It's like a constant connection. You're always looking for ways to open doors, always looking for ways to share information. If you, I made a note, this made me laugh. If you're on X, formerly known as Twitter, you'll occasionally see cabinet members and others talking about a meeting they had with NAR. But what you're not going to see is NAR publicly talking about those meetings, right? So it's one way, not the other. We're really working for results, and that's that's an ongoing long-term strategy. But then we also have RPAC, which is the Realtors Political Action Committee. So that committee that PAC, it's working for the election of pro-realtor candidates, and that's across the U.S. So that's state, local, and federal. The purpose is to elect candidates who understand and support the issues that are important to realtors, their profession, and their livelihood. So just numbers here, it's pretty outstanding in my mind. We had 438 RPAC-backed candidates in 2024. We had a 97% win rate.
Wow.
So that's pretty awesome. And it's also, I want to note too, that it's nonpartisan. So realtors, the Realtor Party or the Realtor Political Action Committee, we have about a 50-50 breakdown of Democrat and Republican. So that's the other big piece of it is, wanting to keep those doors open so we don't lean one way or the other. We lean towards our members. Yeah. And then, so that's, a couple of pieces. And then we also do legal advocacy. So we'll step in and do amicus briefs and help out where we can in a bunch of different cases across the country. One that I noted, this was that we won last year. It was a unanimous ruling of the Supreme Court. NAR was victorious in its support of a Texas man who may now seek compensation after a state highway project caused his land to repeatedly flood. So, I mean, reaching out, helping people that are in need, that's what we do. So most of what I'm saying here is the national level. We here in the office where I work, we're right here in DC. We work on this national level, but then it also has the same thing happening in every state. So in every state, you'll have your state Association of Realtors, and they will have lobbyists. They all have lobbyists, and they all have folks who are very well educated on what's going on. They also are constantly at those Capitol buildings. They are constantly going to all of the hearings, the meetings, meeting with their state Congress folks, and really getting things done, working in the background mostly as well. Supplying information, helping people get informed about what's happening. And that's a big piece of where it's great to have the appraisers jump in and help, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And there's, like, for instance, there's a couple of there's a few states that have appraisal related bills that are happening right now, and so I can't really talk to that. That's more of the state realtor organizations, which way they would want to go or where they're leaning, and that's great. But there are laws about property data collectors, for instance, and fee disclosure. And you'll see this in a few different states, and you'll see that the realtors in those states are active. So, weighing in with what your opinions are or what your experience are is super helpful.
So Keisha, that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious on that particular topic of like property data collection or collectors. That's kind of an emerging topic that affects everybody in a real estate transaction potentially. Do you have a sense of whether NAR or the state association's perspective is, or what kind of efforts they're leaning towards as far as those lobbying efforts go?
Well, it's nuanced, and again, I don't want to speak for the states. I'll say this repeatedly. It is members up, and so the states can choose where they want to go. However, and I'll have to talk about how we form policy in a second. However, we did do research. We did a survey last year. We're looking forward to putting it out again this year. We wanted to find out how realtors view property data collections, what their experience are with property data collections, just what's going on. And what we found, let me see, I can give you some numbers. We found at the time, most of the people who responded to the survey, they haven't seen a property data collector, which makes sense, right? Because at last year and even into this year, it's pretty, I wouldn't say rare, but it's not happening a ton. So they're unfamiliar with it, and when you're unfamiliar with things, then you have questions, you concerns, right? And in fact, 65% of the respondents said they're concerned about the quality of the data. Most folks were concerned about how the use of a data collector would affect the appraisal, if it's used for an appraisal. So I think of this, though, as a baseline, because it's so new. When you look at property data collectors, the workforce of property data collectors, a lot of them, maybe even the majority, probably the majority of the workforce are realtors, are agents that are realtors. But so that's the majority of the workforce, but the majority of realtors don't touch it yet, right? So so even though it's mostly our folks, it's just a very small subset of our folks that are touching it. So it's something that we'll have to learn more about as just an entire group. And personally, I would love to have more data about the efficacy of using these things. I think that would be really helpful to understand, in real numbers, how things are coming along. But we're open to advances in technology and new tools as long as it's safe and sound. Because the bottom line, we want to make sure that the consumer is okay and protected.
Keisha, I think you were noting that maybe you guys are it's in the works to update that survey on the perspective of property data collection. Yeah. That should be going out pretty soon. We'll have two surveys. So there's one. There's two surveys, and they're both kind of around appraisal processes and appraising. So we'll have those out. We do a lot of research. We do a lot of surveying. If you're a member of NAR, you probably get a lot of emails. When we do these surveys, we don't survey the whole mass. It's over 1 million members. That's a lot. And if you get inundated with an email request to do a survey every single time, that's a lot. So we do random sampling and targeted sampling whenever we do our research. So that's kind of what that looks like, and that's that process. So we're just in the process right now of getting that together and getting ready to send that out, finalizing everything. It's a really interesting dichotomy, as you described, that the majority of the people completing property data collection reports or assignments are realtors, and then you also have the users of that ultimate new service. And I can imagine that can be pretty polarizing amongst membership, one way or another, at least in its infancy here, as it's getting launched up.
Yeah. I think there's a level of unfamiliarity, but there's just, I don't know, polarizing. I don't know if I would use that word, but it's definitely something that folks are thinking about a lot, and that's good. That's always good. I'm happy to see folks diving in and learning more and understanding, and seeking more information on what's happening.
You bet. Well, as you were talking about at the outset here, I've been a member of NAR for MLS. It's sort of the way I've always looked at it as an appraiser, and became aware of the breadth and depth of lobbying effort through my volunteerism with the Appraisal Institute, just because as good a work as they do, goodness gracious, the size and scope of NAR it's just enormous. So it's really interesting, but in the same way, Keisha, there are NAR member benefits and tools that are out here that even leading into this call that I was not aware exist. And I think you may even be leading the group to providing more of those specifically for appraisers members. So I'd love for you to walk us through some of the things that you think are important to highlight that we might be able to find useful.
Yeah. And I will show you a few of those or talk about a few of those. But I can't say it enough. I really do believe the biggest benefit is the ability to lend your voice to what's happening in your state, local, and national government, as far as not just the government, but also, regulatory fields. I forgot to say this, and I just wanted to explain how we choose what we lobby on, right? We don't choose what we lobby on as staff. We have committees. So in the national field, Jeff, your dad actually was a member. I think he was chair of the Real Property Valuation Committee. And so we have a bunch of different committees. So folks apply, and please apply across the country to be on this national committee. They come in and then they analyze, they monitor, they see what's happening, in the whole ecosystem of valuations, and then they create policy. And so those policy items, they have to be voted on by the overall organization. So we have 2 gigantic annual meetings, and we all get together, and so it's starts with that committee, and then it moves up to another policy coordinating committee, and then on to the executive committee. It's lots of steps. And then when we get there, then our lobbyists can go out and work on those specific items. And again, same sort of thing happens on the state and local level. One of the things that the Real Property Valuation Committee worked on a number of years ago was a reconsideration of value policy. And so that was great because NAR was able to work with the various groups to get that policy implemented. That was late last year, right? And so that was when we saw the standardized ROV process with the GSEs and FHA, and that was nice to see. That was rescinded by FHA, but that is something that we still work on, and then we see the GSEs or Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac kept theirs, but they just modified it a bit recently. But they kept the guardrails of having a certain number of comps that you can give back to the appraiser. There's a bill right now in Congress, the Road to Housing Act. And within that, there are a couple of appraiser related sections, I suppose. And one of them is about reconsideration of value. And so I'm just pinpointing this little point here. And so that was where our lobbyists can go in and talk to the Congress folks as they are crafting these bills. Like at the beginning of the year, we've been working, talking with them about, what seems to work, what doesn't work, and really reflecting what our members would like to see with that policy. So that kind of gives you a little bit more of how that works. And again, I think it's a huge benefit because this is something that the appraisers were wanting to see, that were members of NAR, and they were able to craft the policy and then see us work for what they needed. So that's I think the biggest piece, but there's also some fun stuff as far as benefits. The other one, as I'm popping around, I want to pull up a page so I'm telling you all the right things, but you can also reach out to your local MLS board too as a member and tell them what you'd like to see, what you wish you could see. That is, they listen. You may not always know it, but there are a lot of folks that I know that are appraisers, and they're like, oh, well, we got them to add this field, or we got them to do this, or we were able to make these modifications. So all MLSs are different. They're all locally run, and so they don't know what they don't know again. So you have to raise your voice and let them know what you need as a real estate appraiser in order to even have a chance of seeing what you want to see, right? So, but other fun benefits. So with NAR, there's a lot of benefits. You can kind of go on the Realtor web pages and look for benefits. We have a specific one laid out for appraisers, but it's really just a piece. It's just some things that we thought might appeal to real estate appraisers. I was talking to someone a few days ago, and she said, well, gosh, I think she does the car rental. You can get discounts on car rentals, and you can get discounts on hotels, I believe is what she was saying. But she said that with the car rentals and the hotels, that's paid for my membership 2 times over every year. Okay, well, that's awesome. That's great. So they have that. As appraisers, when I was appraising, I was on my own. I didn't work for a large firm. And so it's hard to have your retirement fund, set up. It's hard to do things like that. We have, NAR has a connection with IRAR Trust Company. It's a self-directed retirement plan. And that's an exclusive, like a flat discounted rate. So you can use that there. One of the things I really like is we have this website service. So you can go through, and it's like if you go to our appraiser website and then look at benefits, you'll see a professional website page. You can get these websites, and it's like whatever you want, .realtor. And with that, it's customizable. They have different templates. You can do lots of different things. You can change things up. It's free for the first year, and then it's $40 every year after that. In this world that we are living in, as a real estate appraiser, things are changing. Things are changing all the time. I would love to see folks diversify and not put all your eggs in one basket. Be able to do different types of work. We've all gone through dry spells. So it's nice to have a website out there where you can market yourself and put information about yourself out there. So this is something that you can set up and let it sit, or you can update it all the time, however you want to do it. But it's just a way for folks to get in touch with you or learn about you, right? And it's nice to have that support system. I don't know about you guys, but me and technology are not always pals. I need someone to help me badly. So it can be as turnkey as you want. They can really help you out with that. So that's the website. And then something I was telling you guys about earlier, we have, oh no, I'm going to forget. I have the acronym, but Realtor Property Resource. Yes. RPR. So RPR is something, again, I didn't really know much about it. It is basically a mirror of what you see in the MLS. So it pulls the MLS data into this massive nationwide resource. And with RPR, you can search for properties like you do in your MLS. It looks a little different because, again, all MLSs are customized, or not customized, but they're customized for that local market. And RPR is just one basic UI or user interface, right? You can do the searching, but then you can also pull market trends, and you can create reports Actually, should I share my screen? Should I show you?
Great.
Yeah. Let me see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to test this theory of whether you're friendly with technology or not, Keisha.
I know. I'm nervous. Entire
So while you're pulling it up, I'll just tell you, I know I've logged into RPR in the past, but it's been a while. I pulled it up and my credentials were saved. I was able to log right in as well.
Okay.
So I think you sharing some of this stuff is just really helpful to know what's available that probably the majority of appraisers and even agents just are blind to without reason to know that it's there and then start using it.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it just goes back to, you know, what we're saying with all of this. This is here for you. This is waiting for you. It's just, you just have to reach out and grab it. And if you don't know it's there, obviously you don't know it's there, right? But it's one of many of resources and benefits that we have for appraisers. So I think I have this up. Awesome. I have a little market on my home screen here. This is Bradenton, the town I used to live in. But I can go up here. There's a lot you can do here. But I'm just going to go to reports. Let's see. No, I'll go to research, and I want to do market trends. And I'm going to type in a zip code, and that's that Bradenton, Florida area. And so it's going to give me this market trends piece here. And I can pop open this map. I can scroll down. I can see kind of what's happening. And what I can do is I can copy these charts if I'd like to, like on a monthly basis. You can update your website and share this sort of information with the folks who are checking out what you do on your webpage. But what I also love about this, and it goes on and on, right? What I also love about this is you can click this Create Script button. And when you do that, you can select what kind of tone you want for a script. We'll stay with professional. Select your audience, so who you're really talking to. We'll say buyers and sellers here. And you can come up with, say, a post to put on social media to market yourself, or an article here, and you can generate this. And once it generates, you can take it, modify it how you want, but it comes up with a baseline that you can use to put an article about or explaining these market trends on your website. And so what that leads to is, you know, I'm shopping for an appraiser. I have, you know, I went through a divorce, right? I want to, you know, get rid of this property when I want to make sure everything's cool. As far as the value goes, well, I come upon, you know, a real estate appraiser who has information about the market on the website. You know, maybe I choose that real estate appraiser because they seem like they know what's going on. Appraisers know what's going on, but we have to get the message out to other folks about, you know, what you know and what you do. Market yourself, right? So anyway, it's kind of fun that you can do this sort of thing. And within RPR, there's a few different options as far as what you can pull and share. But then it goes back to, I won't spend all day in RPR, but you can do the regular property search as well. That was a guided tour, but pretty much all of these things, there's guided tours to show you how to work all of these things. You could spend days in RPR, as you know.
That's my problem. I find something interesting and I just chase down this rabbit hole. But, you know, to kind of zoom out, Keisha, it sounds like for marketing purposes, for putting yourself out there as an expert, there's really good charts, graphs, information. It looks like for even analyzing real estate, whether as an appraiser or as an agent wanting to be the well-grounded, kind of up to speed, you know, knowledgeable professional, there's a lot of data and resources there that can help you price a property accurately. If I'm trying to take a listing, integrate it into an appraisal report. Now that information, you may not know the answer, I assume you do, is available nationwide. So like if I wanted to look up information in a different market that I'm not a member of an MLS specifically, could I pull up comps in a neighboring state or something, or do you know how that works with RPR?
Yeah, it's a little tricky. I was going down that rabbit hole myself about a month ago. I don't think we talked about that, so it's funny that you asked. Trying to figure that out. So what I found out from talking to the folks at RPR is it's, again, very MLS specific. So some I have a friend who is an appraiser in a somewhat rural area, and because of that and where she's located, she actually is subscribing really to 3 different MLSs, which is problematic, right? That's a lot. So and she's looking into this right now too, to try to figure it out. It's dependent on if say ABC, the first MLS, if a MLS chooses to share their information with the B and C MLSs, then if you log in under the A MLS, then it should show up, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? So you should see everything that you're subscribed to, plus anything that those other MLSs choose to share out. That is a long way of saying it depends.
Your appraiser's favorite answer.
I know. It's not. I mean, I would love it if it was nationwide. There for a minute, there was a pause in MLS services a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that. And it was kind of etched into everyone's souls as they were searching for comps, and nothing was working for a week. Was it 2 weeks? Yep. It was way too long. At that time, NAR did offer RPR to anyone nationwide. It was available at that time. It looks like, from my understanding, they pulled that back. But yeah, it's worth looking into. If there's a way to search for other stuff, it's worth a try for sure.
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, good to know. Maybe just on this topic of kind of resources that are available, we can do some maybe quick hitting summaries, but I know there's other information that we were talking about offline available for appraisers and for agents. Maybe what I'll do, Keisha, share my screen for just a minute, and would love to see, or just have you kind of give a high-level overview of what some of these resources are and how agents and appraisers can leverage or utilize those. One of these is a piece that sits on the website. In fact, I think it's, you'll have to make sure I'm not telling too many lies here, but I think this is on the NAR.Realtor appraisal valuation piece. Yeah. And then there's a collateral piece that just talks about the effective communication for accurate appraisals. This is directed to agents. Is that the target audience for this one? Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's funny. We do have a lot of things we're pushing out, and more to come. So this piece was a project that the Real Property Valuation Committee and the Fair Housing Committee worked on together as far as this agent appraiser communication. What we have found, we did a lot of research at the beginning of the year, and we found that a lot of agents didn't at the time think that they were allowed to speak to real estate appraisers. And we were talking earlier, sometimes we see appraisers that think similarly. They don't think that they're allowed to take information for or from agents. And so that has resulted in a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of confusion. You have a situation, and I said this earlier, but I can see this happening really easily. So I have an appraiser, they go out to a property, they do the appraisal. Well, they won't know that the roof was replaced 2 years ago unless someone tells them, right? And I know in the neighborhood I used to live, that would be a big deal. We had tile roofs that were $50,000 to $80,000 to replace, and so if having a new roof is a very, very big deal and can seriously impact value.
So if the appraiser doesn't know that, they were never told that, they have no information indicating that, then, obviously it could affect value. And then, the client or the borrower might get that report back and say, hey, what's going on here? All of this could be avoided if the agent had just mentioned this to the appraiser at the beginning. So that's what we've come up with. So we have a handout, we have the web page, we have this handout here where we really push that the agents should be speaking to the real estate appraisers. We advocate using like a consistent checklist. Do it the same way every time, make it a habit, and then you don't have to worry about it. Agents are already gathering all of this information anyway for their CMAs or for other things to help the borrower out with in the loan process. So why not just share it with the appraiser too? We talk about, I don't know if we talk about it right here, but we also did a webinar, which is on that page. We have a series of webinars called Supporting Your Value, where we talk about valuation issues, and I can go into that more. But yeah, in the webinar there, we talked about, do it in writing. So number one, agents and appraisers are in the car a lot. We're always driving. You're going from place to place. You're taking pictures of your comps. It's hard to retain everything that we just hear. If you have it in writing, then you have that source of truth, and then you also have a record of it. Something you can put in your work file, and so that's great too. But what we also, so those are all like do's. When we talk about don'ts, though, influencing the real estate appraiser, trying to, ask them to hit a certain price, things like that, those are not allowed, right? So we wanted to be very clear about, what you can, you can't do. We went a little bit further in that handout, and we talked about when is the best time to talk to the appraiser, obviously at the very beginning, and then what to give them, that checklist of items that's happening, anything that may be relevant, recent sales that the appraiser may not be aware of, all of those sorts of things. And then we go on to talk about what to do post-appraisal. Fascinating to me, absolutely fascinating. When we did the interviews, the pre-work for this, a lot of agents didn't know that you could do a reconsideration of value. And a lot of agents didn't know how. If they knew that it existed, they didn't know how that was done. So that was nice. In the resource, we kind of like just walk through what a reconsideration of value is and what it consists of, because we really wanted to point out that it has to be substantial. It has to be material, right? Like if there is a math error, if there is an outbuilding that is on the subject property that wasn't included, we're all human, everybody makes mistakes. But this is the time when, the agent can help their client to gather this information and analyze, what's in the appraisal, what's not, gather that information. And then the client will need to relate that to the lender. This is not the time for the agent to reach out to the appraiser and say, hey, something's not right. They can't, we're past that point. And so we're just trying to make that clear. So we have these two resources, and then we have an FAQ a little bit further down the page. Something else that we're working on, it's just about finished. I'm hoping it'll be out very soon. On the same page is a presentation deck for real estate appraisers, actually. So the deck is very similar to what you'll see in the webinar. And we have the slides, right, that the appraiser can use. And then we have notes underneath that with suggested language. Mm-hmm. We just want to give real estate appraisers a little help, a little nudge to do these. And we're thinking that the appraiser could use this to talk to their local agents and explain, on a one-on-one level, on a local level, what they can and can't do as far as communication. This could be helpful in a couple of ways. Number one, getting the word out about communication, which is great, but also marketing yourself. It goes back to, we want to see our members successful. We want to see real estate appraisers successful as members of National Association of Realtors. So go out, talk to the folks at your local organization. We'll have this slide deck you can use as a presentation, but also, talk about how you can communicate with each other, but what your specialties are and what your strengths are, and give them your contact information. It's a two-way street, right? The real estate appraisers contact the agents whenever they're looking to verify comps and get additional information, but agents are looking for appraisers too. Again, these divorce issues, these estates. I did a lot of estates. I did a lot of portfolios back in the day. It's imperative to have appraisers help out with these situations, and so we'd love to position our appraiser members to be the person to call when something like this comes up.
It's interesting, as I go through the appraisal process daily and thinking about some of these handouts, particularly the do's and don'ts with realtor and appraiser communication, but also even the awareness of the reconsideration of value. These are, I think, creatively that, it might be in my best interest to include that handout to a realtor I'm reaching out to schedule an appointment with. It helps me do a better job, and for sure. And it is, NAR with the language, not just me. And reconsideration of value, I think, ultimately, I think appraisers often view it as a pain in the neck and sort of dismiss it. But it is a real meaningful process to avoid liability. And if you can encourage people to ask questions during the appraisal process and not ask those questions to the state when they get frustrated with the end result, it just makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. Here's some instructions, up front of how we can communicate. Let's do this. Let's be open and get it done right.
It also, I think it can convey expertise when what their organization is suggesting they do and are helping guide them to those things. Can kind of build a case for competence. I think probably can help reduce liability on some level too, if positioned the right way with the right bedside manner. Hey, you probably don't know this. Here, I'm going to teach you. Probably isn't the way to go about it, but something like that.
Yeah, well, real estate appraisers are they make their living by giving their opinion. So
True. You get what you get. You get what you get.
They have a lot of opinions, as they should.
Yeah. Keisha, I've got a last question for you. So I know you have given at least one recent webinar on this UAD 3.6 to members of your organization. I think there's a lot of folks out there that are nervous about these big changes. You guys have been dealing with, you mentioned this at the outset too, a lot of big changes. And part of this was this lawsuit case with the commissions and all. And, I heard some at the time when this kind of large headline on the commission changes had come up. Many were, I think the vast majority were saying, oh my goodness, the sky is falling. But there were a few calm minds that I heard, hey, if anything, this is an opportunity, if not a real needle mover one way or another. And I think as we've gotten past, it hasn't been that. We've got UAD 3.6 out there in the same way. And I think a lot of people, the vast majority, are saying this is a wrecking ball to everything that I know. I'm curious as to what your messaging is in the webinars. What's important for NAR members to know about the changes that are coming up, and how should we think about it in your eyes?
Yeah, thanks for that. Really, everything you just talked about, the messaging for everything you just talked about is stronger agent appraiser communication, really. to understand, the exactly what happened with a comparable sale, you need to reach out to an agent and confirm that sale, right, and understand the details of it. With UAD 3.6, the new reports, we're showing our agents what the new report can look like. Honestly, I think that this is going to be a positive change as far as like readability, right, for the user, for the reader of the report. With the lack of C addendum. I think I said C addendum 20 times in a webinar last week. And so hopefully soon that will never be said again. No more C addendum, which would be nice. It's hard to find that relevant information that you need in an appraisal today. Control F is a big thing for readers, right? But for the appraisers, obviously, it's such a big shift. It's a huge shift because, and what we're trying to explain to our agent members too is that it's not just changing the way you do the report. It's also, I think, most of these software companies, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that most of the software companies are updating and redoing their back end UIs as well, like the user interface for ordering and invoicing is changing with just about everyone. I mean, is that are you seeing that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what that means is the appraisers having to learn everything as far as their software over again, and get up to date. So we're asking agents to give them a little grace. Understand what your fellow NAR members are going through on the appraiser side, and talk to them. I want this to be, I'm really hoping that this is another step in opening that door. If you want your client's appraisal to be done in a more timely way, then help your appraiser out and let them have the information that they need as soon as possible, right? So hopefully that happens, and hopefully that continues. We will keep pushing that message out, and just it will and do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. But yeah, I think in the end it'll be great. Appraisers are, nobody likes change, but appraisers have been preparing for this. They have been working so hard in learning what the new UAD consists of. They've been biting, chomping at the bit to get going with the new softwares. So I think, I have I have a lot of faith in real estate appraisers to make this transition, honestly, fairly quickly. The ones I've seen that, not specifically, but the ones I've seen that have transitioned to like mobile seem to really like it. Once the transition has been made, it's not easy at first. I had something I was I was doing a UAD, talking about UAD a couple of weeks ago, and we compared it to Bob Dylan's lyrics, because Bob Dylan's lyrics are great. He won a Nobel Prize in literature for having amazing lyrics, but it depends on who you are. Some people say that the delivery of said lyrics are unpleasant. It's not known for having the most beautiful voice. But in a similar way, I think it will be beneficial for most, and we're going to enjoy, after we get through that transition part. It's just the delivery might be a bit grating. But yeah, we'll keep giving that message. We have a huge conference coming up in Houston, our NXT conference, and we're expecting like 12,000 people to be there. And one of the topics is the Real Property Valuation Forum will be on UAD. So Amy Frink is the chair of that forum, and so she's put together some information. We'll have an appraiser, and I think Scott Reuter, and maybe myself. even talking about this very thing, mainly to agents, but to appraisers as well.
Well, I think you make such a good point. Keisha, it's just the communication and understanding of where both sides are coming from and what each side needs to do their job well, professionally and competently it's critical. We don't really have time to reference other resources on the NAR website, but there's a lot of good information that helps facilitate that communication and just better understand what's going on, in the market locally and nationally. So would love to do a follow-up at some point, maybe dive in a little deeper to some of the other data information that's just available there through NAR, the website, and it just, we all want to understand what's happening around us. We want to be, professionals that do a good and credible job for our clients, whether our clients are lenders, individuals, buyers, sellers. And, the better communication we facilitate with each other, I think the better off we are in being able to, to do that job well. Yeah. We're really grateful for your perspective, for your willingness to come on and talk with two less than interesting guys. But the real estate is fascinating, I think, to all of us on this call and anybody who'd be crazy enough to listen to this podcast. So understanding how it works and why and how the different parties in the transactions interact, what they should do, what they shouldn't do in those interactions and in the transactions, I think is really important. So
yeah, happy to be here. And just one other thing, I didn't get to dive into this, but I'd like to hit it really quickly. I talk about how appraisers are members of National Association of REALTORS. Appraisers are valued, but that doesn't always happen, or that's not always the experience or perspective of folks at a local level, right? Mm-hmm. Just because of this whole idea that a realtor is an agent or a broker, but in reality, appraisers are welcome. I really encourage folks to get involved at their local level. Try to open that door. It should not be locked. If it's jammed a bit, please reach out to me, give me a call, and I would love to facilitate a conversation to move in a more accepting direction. We want you. We want your voice. We want your perspectives. And if you run into any log jams at all, as far as participating on committees, just being involved in any way, again, please reach out to me and let's work on that, because you're welcome here.
I think a valuable message, and you're leading by example as an appraiser that's deeply involved with NAR. That message resonates, and that's been my lived experience, is that local association wants and values the appraiser's perspectives and input, and so we're better off as the appraisers choose to be engaged as well, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a lot of fun having the conversation here, Keisha. Really, thank you for your time and generosity with coming on and talking with us. There's no shortage of topics we didn't get to. We'd love to have you back again and be able to, kind of follow up on some conversations. But thank you for coming and talking with us today.
You're super welcome. Anytime, Jeff and Mark. You guys are fun. I don't care what anyone says about it.
We'll stop listening to the critics. I love it. Awesome. Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. Take care.